Imagine being born a lion, but unable to roar. Imagine everyone laughing at you, calling you weak, telling you that you'll never become who you were meant to be. But what if I told you that sometimes the ones who seem the weakest end up changing the world in the most powerful way? Before we begin this heart-touching story of courage, kindness, and discovering your true worth, make sure to like this video and subscribe, because stories like this might be exactly what your heart needs today. Now, let me tell you about Ru, the lion who learned to rise. Call it a roar sounded more like a bird who had a sore throat than a lion. When the other cubs practiced roaring competitions, their voices thundered across the valley. Ru, on the other hand, produced a squeak that made meerkats laugh and birds look around confused. The worst part was, the other cubs never let him forget it. "Hey, Ru," said Kivali, the biggest cub, grinning with sharp baby fangs. "Try roaring again. Maybe this time you'll sound louder than a cricket." The others snickered. Ru lowered his head. I just don't think roaring is for me." Kivali puffed up his tiny chest. "You're a lion. Roaring is for every lion. What else are you good for?" Ru wished he had an answer, but he didn't. Every day felt like a reminder of what he couldn't do. He wasn't fast. He wasn't big. He wasn't brave. He wasn't loud, and deep down he wondered if he even mattered to the pride at all. His mother, Hyena, was the gentlest yet strongest lioness in the pride. She watched Ru with knowing eyes as he shuffled across the rocky ledge that afternoon. Paws dragging in the dust like anchors. "Ru," she called softly. "Come sit with me." He approached, head hung low. "You're going to tell me I need to practice roaring again?" "Right," Liana smiled. "No, my little one. I want to tell you something important. Something even the loudest lion sometimes forgets." She lifted his chin with her paw. "A lion is not measured by his roar, but by his heart." Drew blinked. "But everyone else is too busy trying to sound strong," she said. "Few lions learn to be strong." Ru didn't really understand, but his mother's voice soothed him. She always knew how to make pain feel like it belonged somewhere, not ignored, not forgotten, but shaped into something. She looked at him the way sun looks at a seed, believing, warm, patient. "Strength grows," she said. "But only if you don't give up on yourself." Ru nodded, though inside he wasn't sure he even had anything worth growing. One evening, a storm rolled across the savannah. The skies darkened, the winds howled, and the younger cubs scrambled under a fallen tree for shelter. Aru joined them. But his tiny frame didn't block any of the wind. The others complained. "Move, Ru. You're too small to help. You're letting the wind in. Can't you do anything right?" Ru backed away, heart pounding with humiliation. "Fine," he thought bitterly. "If I can't help, maybe I'm just in the way." He wandered out into the rain, ignoring the loud cracks of lightning in the distance. Rain soaked his mane, turning it into thin, pathetic strands. Thunder echoed through the valley, deep and booming exactly how he wished his roar could be. He didn't go far before he saw something unusual. A tiny wildebeest calf, shivering beside a small ravine. The storm had likely swept it away from its herd. The ravine water rushed fast, and fierce one wrong step, and the calf could be swept away entirely. Drew froze, a lion cub helping a prey animal. It didn't make sense. It wasn't natural, but the calf wasn't an enemy. It was terrified, lost, shaking with every tyclot, just like Ru often was. "Hey," Ru said gently, stepping closer. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." The calf blinked at him, trembling uncontrollably. Ru's instinct screamed, "Run away. You're too weak. You'll both fall." But somewhere inside him, a part he didn't know existed yet, another voice whispered, "Do something. Do anything. Try." He slowly nudged the calf, guiding it away from the ravine edge. The ground was slippery, mud sloshing beneath their feet, but he kept pushing. The calf stumbled, nearly falling. Ru leaped in front of it, bracing its fall. His small body trembled with effort, but he didn't move. "You're okay," he said between breaths. "Just stay with me." Thunder roared overhead, but Ru's heart roared louder, choosing courage despite fear. When the storm finally eased and a soft drizzle fell over the land, Ru saw something approaching from the mist-tan entire wildebeest herd. Searching desperately for their missing young, the mother wildebeest rushed forward, nudging the calf protectively. She looked at Ru, not with fear, but with gratitude. Ru stepped back, unsure what to do. No lion taught him how to accept thanks from prey. The mother bowed her head, and Ru felt something. Strange warmed his chest, something he had never felt before. Pride. Real pride. Not the kind others demanded from him, but the kind that grows quietly when you know you've done something meaningful. When Ru returned to the pride the next day, he expected cheering or praise anything. Instead, he found Kivali waiting for him with the others. "So you disappeared in the storm?" Kivali scoffed. "Let me guess. You hid from the thunder like a scared little mouse." Ru wanted to tell them what he had done, how he helped a calf survive, how he faced a storm alone. But when he opened his mouth, nothing came out, not a roar, not a word. Just silence. Speaking up felt harder than facing the storm. The cubs laughed. "You're hopeless, Ru. You're not even lion-like. Maybe you're adopted." The words hit him harder than rainfall. He turned and ran before they could see his tears. Ru hid beneath a tall acacia tree. Tears slid down his fur and into the dust. "Crying already? The sun hasn't even set yet." Ru looked up, startled. A large tortoise ambled toward him, slow shell cracked in places like an ancient map. This was Maziwa, the oldest creature in the valley. Animals often sought him for wisdom. "Are you wiped his tears?" I wasn't crying. Course not." Maziwa nodded. "Your eyes are just watering from all the courage you used today." Ju snorted, half laughing, half miserable. "Courage? I don't have any." Maziwa lowered himself beside the cub. "Tell me what makes you think that." Ru poured out everything: the failed roar, the teasing, the storm, the calf, the humiliation. Maziwa listened quietly, nodding with the patience only ancient creatures possess. When Ru finished, Maziwa spoke. "You know, young lion, lions roar because it is easy, but compassion, courage when no one sees, that is harder, much harder." Ru frowned. "But lions are supposed to be strong." "Strong." Maziwa chuckled. "My boy, the strongest tree bends in the wind, not because it is weak, but because it understands survival." "What does that mean?" "It means that what you see as weakness may actually be your greatest strength." "But the others don't think so." "Then stop living by their roar," Maziwa said firmly. "Find your own." Ru felt something spark inside him at those words, small but real. A few days later, the world seemed to test Ru's newfound spark. Early morning cries echoed across the valley. The pride rushed to the source, a young lioness, trapped between two fallen logs and a steep drop. Her back paw was pinned. She couldn't move. The pride panicked. "Someone help her. We can't reach. The rocks are too unstable." No one dared approach. The ground was loose. One wrong step could send them tumbling. Ru's heart pounded. He remembered the calf. He remembered the storm. He remembered Maziwa's words, "Find your own roar." Before he could think or doubt, he ran forward. "Ru," a lioness shouted, "stop. It's too dangerous." But something stronger than fear was pulling him. Determination. The logs creaked under his tiny paws, but he kept going. Dust rose. Rocks shifted. The lioness whimpered. He reached her and pressed his shoulder against the log. "Push when I say so," Ru yelled. The lioness stared at the small cub, stunned. "Trust me." She nodded. Aru braced himself. Now he pushed with all his strength. The lioness pulled. The log rolled just enough for her to slip out. The ground shook. Ru jumped aside just in time as the entire edge crumbled. They both tumbled backward, but landed safely on flatter ground. The pride gasped. The lioness ran to Ru and nuzzled him warmly. "You saved me," she whispered. Ru's ears are EDDNED. Suddenly, the pride stared at him differently, not with irritation, not with mockery, but with awe. Even Kivali looked speechless. Ru didn't roar. He didn't need to. His actions thundered louder than sound. That night, as the sun melted into orange and purple streaks, Ru stood on a rock overlooking the savannah. His heart felt full of fear he had faced, of kindness he had shown, of courage he had found without knowing he had it. He opened his mouth, and for the first time, a sound emerged, not a squeak, not a whisper, a small, shaky, but unmistakable roar. It wasn't loud. It wasn't perfect, but it was his. The pride turned. Liana smiled. Maziwa nodded from afar. Even Kivali looked stunned, and Ru finally understood. A roar doesn't make a lion. A lion makes his roar. The savannah glowed beneath the rising sun as it stretched across the horizon in warm streaks of gold. A new day had begun, and for the first time in his life, Ru woke with confidence rather than dread. His heart still thumped with the memory of his small yet real roar from the night before. A roar that came not from his throat, but from courage swelling inside him. He bounded down the hillside, paws lighter than they had ever felt. The other cubs were gathered by a waterhole, practicing pounces. In the past, Ru would avoid them, afraid of their sneers. But not today. Kivali noticed him first. "Oh, look, the hero arrives," he said, half mockery, half something unfamiliar, perhaps respect. Ru hesitated. Old habits told him to shrink back, but he remembered Maziwa's words. "Stop living by their roar. Find your own." So he lifted his head. "Morning," Ru said simply. The cubs exchanged glances. They weren't used to this version of RuSteady.com, unafraid. It unsettled them more than if he had shouted. Kivali snorted. "Think saving one lioness makes you special?" "No," Ru said, "but it showed me what I can do." The confidence in his voice startled even him. Kivali stepped closer. "Maybe you got lucky. Don't let it get to your head. I'm not trying to be better than anyone," Ru said. "I'm trying to be better than who I was yesterday." Silence fell. The other cubs blinked, surprised by the maturity of his words. Even Kivali looked thrown off, mouth opening, but unable to find a comeback. And for the first time, Ru didn't feel small among them, not because he had grown in size, but because he had grown in spirit. Over the next several days, Ru began to see the savannah differently. He noticed how the gazelles twitched their ears at the slightest sound, how the elephants traveled in protective groups, and how hyenas communicated in complex laughter-like calls. He watched. He learned. He listened. Ru wasn't the strongest cub, nor the fastest, nor the loudest. But he had something rare called awareness, and animals began to approach him. First came a pair of meerkats, arguing about who should take the dawn watch. Then came a wounded hare seeking directions to a safe burrow. Later, a group of guinea fowl asked him to help them cross a muddy area where a snake had been spotted. Ru wasn't sure why everyone came to him, but he helped where he could one evening. Liana watched him guide a lost baby jackal back to its den. When Ru returned, his mother nuzzled him warmly. "You have a protector's heart," she said. Ru blinked. "But lions protect lions." "No," Liana corrected gently. "Lions protect the balance of the land." Ru looked out at the wide savannah dotted with countless species. He understood then. His compassion wasn't weakness. It was service, and service made, invaluable in a way no roar could measure. Not everyone celebrated Ru's rising confidence. Kivali watched Ru from afar. Every act of kindness, every animal who sought Ru, every whisper of admiration. It made something dark stir in Kivali's chest. Jealousy. Kivali had always defined strength the old way. Big paws, sharp claws, loud roars. He saw the world as a competition, dominate or be forgotten. But Ru was changing the pride's perspective, and it threatened everything Kivali believed. One afternoon as Ru rested beneath a fig tree, Kivali approached with narrowed eyes. You think you're better than us? He demanded. You looked up, startled. What? No, everyone keeps talking about you. The lioness you saved. The calf you rescued. All your little speeches. Keevely's tail lashed. You're stealing attention. Rue stood slowly. I'm not trying to steal anything, and stop acting like you're special. Rue held his ground. I'm not special because I helped others. Anyone could do the same, Keevely scoffed. You're soft. Lions aren't meant to care about prey or weak animals. Rue's voice was quiet but firm. A lion who only cares about himself isn't truly strong, Keevely snapped. He lunged at Rue. Rue barely dodged. Claws scraped dirt. Teeth flashed. The scuffle drew attention. Lionesses rushed forward. Stop it, roared Liana. Keevely backed off, breathing heavily. Rue's flank stung where a shallow scratch now bled, but he didn't retaliate. Keevely sneered. See, you won't even fight back. Coward. Rue met his eyes. Fighting out of anger isn't strength. Liana stepped protectively in front of him. Enough, Keevely. Go back to the others. As Keevely stalked away, Rue wondered, why does my kindness make him so angry? The question lingered like a shadow that refused to fade. Later that night, Rue visited Mazua. The moon cast silver light across the tortoise's shell. You look troubled, Mazua observed. Rue recounted the fight. Mazua listened in silence, then sighed. Jealousy, Mazua said, is a shadow created by someone standing in their own light but refusing to see it. Has Keevely lost his way? No, Mazua murmured. But he fears losing his place. Many animals cling to the old idea of strength because it's all they know. Rue's ears drooped. Should I stop helping others so he won't feel threatened? Mazua chuckled dryly. Should the sun stop shining because one creature complains it is too bright? Rue blinked. Your kindness changes the savannah, Mazua continued. Such light always brings shadows. But shadows cannot swallow a lion who knows his own purpose. Rue took this in slowly. Then what should I do? He asked. Continue, Mazua said simply. Continue being who you were born to be. In time, even shadows reveal their truth. Rue looked up at the stars. Wondering what truth the shadow of jealousy might be hiding, days passed peacefully until the wind shifted, carrying with it a scent that made every lion lift their heads. Sharply, hyenas, but not just a small pack. A massive clan. Hyenas rarely challenge lions directly unless desperate or starved. And judging by the thunderous rumbling of their growls, something had driven them to madness. A scout lioness rushed back to the pride. They're coming this way, she shouted. Dozens of them. The pride scrambled to formation. Liana grabbed Rue by the scruff and pushed him toward the cub shelter den. Stay hidden, she ordered. No matter what happens. But I can help. Rue cried. You've helped enough for one season. This is not a small situation. We cannot risk you. Rue clenched his jaw, but obeyed. He ducked into the shallow den where the younger cubs huddled. Outside, the roar of battle grew louder, and then it began. Hyenas poured from the grassland, snapping and snarling. Lionesses collided with them, teeth clashing, bodies slamming. Dust exploded into the air. The cubs trembled. Rue pressed forward, wanting to run out, but knowing his mother was right. He was too small to fight. But something strange happened. A hyena slipped past the lionesses and darted toward the den. The cubs, screamed Ar. You acted without thinking. He jumped in. Front of the den's entrance. Fur bristling, the hyena snarled. It was twice Rue's size and dripping with hunger. But instead of lunging, it hesitated. Why? Because behind Rue stood 6 terrified cubs, and predators prefer prey that runs, not prey that protects. Rue puffed his fur, widening his stance. His heart raced like a stampede. Stay back, he growled, his voice cracking. But steady. The hyena stepped closer. Rue didn't retreat. He roared. Not loud, not deep, but brave. Brave enough to buy time, until a lioness barreled in. Tackling the hyena with a furious snarl, Aru dragged the cubs deeper inside. Trembling from what almost happened, he had been scared, terrified. But he hadn't run. He had stood his ground. He finally understood. Courage isn't the absence of fear, but standing despite it. After hours of fighting, the hyenas fled. As the pride tended wounds, Aru emerged. Liana rushed to him, but a young lioness spoke first. He protected the cubs. If he hadn't stepped in, we would have lost them. Silence fell, then murmurs of awe. Liana's pride shone brighter than the sun. Aru felt warmth rise within him, but from behind a boulder, Kivali watched, burning with envy. Every time Aru rose, Kivali felt himself sink. Every praise Aru earned felt stolen. Resentment hardened into something darker. That night, while the pride slept, Kivali slipped away. In a clearing, wounded hyenas lingered. Their leader, Nasha, sneered. "A lion cub approaches us? Brave or foolish?" Kivali's voice shook. "I have an offer." When he admitted Aru was taking everything he wanted, Nasha grinned. "So you want the little prince gone?" Kivali didn't speak, but the silence was enough. "Why betray your kind?" Nasha asked. "Because he stole everything," Kivali hissed. Under the cold moon, a dangerous alliance formed. Meanwhile, unaware of the growing threat, Aru continued helping the savannah, guiding the weak, warning herds, sharing water. Many saw him as a rare lion with compassion instead of hunger for power. But fate was not done. On the last quiet evening before chaos, Aru sat beside Maziwa. "You have grown," the tortoise said. "I feel useful. More than useful, you are becoming a leader." "I'm too small." "Leaders aren't chosen by size, but by the burdens they accept." Aru bowed his head. "I'm trying, and that," Maziwa said, "is enough." The wind stilled. Birds drifted in silence. Peace hung heavy to heavy, the final breath before the storm that would change Aru forever. The next morning dawned with an uneasy stillness. The savannah was too quiet, no birdsong, no rustling herds, not even the distant rumble of migrating elephants. A heavy tension clung to the air like fog. Aru sensed it immediately. His paws tingled with warning. His ears flicked at phantom sounds. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Liana nudged him softly. "Stay close today, Aru. The land feels unsettled." Aru nodded, but his gut twisted. He felt watched, yet saw nothing. Nearby, Kivali sat alone, tail flicking with nervous intention. He avoided Aru's eyes. If Aru had noticed, he might have realized something brewing beneath Kivali's posture: guilt and dread, because Kivali had made a deal he wasn't prepared to face. And today, the consequences were coming. Just before noon, distant laughter echoed across the plains. But this laughter wasn't playful. It was sharp, cruel, and coordinated. The pride stiffened. "They're back," whispered a lioness. Aru's heart pounded. He scanned the horizon until he saw them, dozens of hyenas emerging from tall grass, forming a dark, shifting line. But something was different this time. They weren't charging blindly. They were organized, intentional, as if led by a purpose far bigger than hunger. At their front stood Nasha, leader of the clan, grinning with jagged teeth. Liana moved Aru behind the lionesses. "Stay hidden." But Aru shook his head. "You need everyone today, even me." Her eyes softened with fear of losing him. But she didn't have time to argue, because Nasha stepped forward. "Dawn Pride," he called mockingly. "We come with an offer." A ripple of shock passed through the lions. Hyenas never offered anything except chaos. "What is your offer?" Liana demanded. Nasha smirked. "Hand over the cub," called Aru, "and we leave peacefully." Aru froze. The pride erupted in disbelief. "What? Why, Aru? He's just a cub." Aru stepped forward with trembling legs. "Why me?" he asked quietly. Nasha's eyes flicked toward Kivali so quickly that only Aru noticed. Aru felt his stomach drop. Kivali looked away. Nasha licked his teeth. Let's just say you've been inconvenient, too beloved, too influential. And some lions don't appreciate a cub changing the way of the plains. The pride roared in outrage. Liana nearly lunged at Nasha. No one touches my son. Nasha shrugged. Then we have war. With a cackling howl, the hyenas surged forward. Lionesses charged. Hyenas swarmed. Dust exploded upward, turning the world into a blur of claws and teeth. Ru darted between bodies, helping the smaller cubs escape danger, guiding them to a hollowed log. But the battlefield was chaos. He couldn't see his mother, nor Mazawa, nor Kivali. A hyena pounced at him. Ru rolled aside. Heart hammering, suddenly Kivali appeared, tackling the hyena away. Ru stared at him, breathless. You saved me. Kivali looked ashamed. Ru. But before he could finish, shadow loomed behind them. Jiena Shah, the hyena leader, slammed Kivali aside, sending him rolling across the dirt. Ru stumbled backward, heart in his throat. Nasha advanced, laughter low and hungry. Finally, the hyena growled. The cub everyone protects. The cub who makes lions kind. The cub who interferes where he doesn't belong. Ru trembled. What do you want from me? Nasha grinned. To end you. Because you threaten the balance of fear. Lions are meant to be feared, not loved. Not admired. And certainly not compassionate. He lunged Ar. You shut his eyes, but a massive form leapt between them, Lena. She took the hit full force, teeth sinking into Nasha's shoulder before he threw her off. Ru screamed, rushing toward her as she stumbled. Mama. She growled weakly. Ru, run. No, Ru said, voice breaking. I won't leave you. Nasha stalked toward them. You're brave, little cub. I'll give you that. But bravery doesn't save you without strength. Ru backed closer to his mother. His chest heaved. His legs shook. He wanted to roar. He needed to roar. But fear strangled him. Suddenly, Ru heard a voice. Not from outside, from inside. His mother's voice. A lion is not measured by his roar, but by his heart. Mizaya's voice. Shadows cannot swallow a lion who knows his purpose. Then his own voice. Courage is choosing to stand. Anyway, Ru's breathing steadied. He moved away from his mother and stood between her and Nasha. Nasha blinked. Bold choice. Ru's small body shook, but his eyes burned with something new and breakable resolve. You think lions rule through fear? Ru said quietly. But strength isn't fear, Nasha snorted. Then what is it? Ru stepped forward. Strength is protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Strength is standing even when you're small. Strength is choosing kindness when others choose cruelty. The hyena's grin faltered. Ru continued. You call my compassion a weakness. But today, it's the one thing giving me the courage to face you, Nasha growled. You talk too much for a cub. Ru planted his paws. I'm not just a cub, he inhaled. Every moment of doubt, every humiliation, every act of courage, every animal he had helped, all of it surged inside him like a rising flame. Ru roared, not a small roar, not a shaky roar, a roar that shook the ground, a roar of purpose, a roar of bravery, a roar of truth. The entire battlefield froze. Lions turned. Hyenas froze. Mitataka. Even Nasha stepped backward. The immense sound echoing across the plains was not the roar of a cub. It was the roar of a leader. Something ancient awoke in the pride that moment. Strength, unity, faith. Liana rose painfully to her feet. That, she whispered proudly, is my son. The lionesses unleashed a renewed fury. Even Kivali, eyes wide with awe and guilt, trushed back into battle. Fighting beside Ru for the first time, rather than against him, the hyenas wavered. Fear cracked through their ranks. Nasha snarled and charged Ru, enraged. But he wasn't charging a helpless cub. Anymore, he was charging a lion. Ru sidestepped and tripped Nasha with a quick swipe. Kivali barreled in, slamming into Nasha's side. Liana followed with a final, powerful swipe. Nasha collapsed, defeated the Hyena clan, leaderless and terrified. Fled into the plains, the battle was over. The savannah fell silent. Then slowly lionesses began to cheer. Ru. Ru saved us. Ru's roar turned the tide. Ru's legs trembled as adrenaline faded. Liana nuzzled him, tears in her eyes. You did what even grown lions struggled to do, she whispered. You found your roar. When we needed it most. After the pride tended to wounds and ensured safety, Ru approached Kivali. Kivali's ears flattened. Ru, I have something to confess. Ru waited quietly. Kivali's voice cracked. I told the hyenas about you. I let them in. I was jealous. I thought if they took you away, the pride would see me again. Ru felt the words stab deep, but he didn't speak. Kivali continued, tears forming. But when I saw you face Nasha, and when you saved the cubs before, I realized something. You're not stealing my place. I was destroying my own. Ito sat beside him. Kivali, he said softly, you made a bad choice. A dangerous one. But you also made a brave choice today. You protected me. You fought beside me. That matters. Kivali blinked. You're not angry? Ru sighed. I'm hurt. But everyone gets lost sometimes. Shadows fall on all of us. What matters is whether we stay in them or step back into the light. Kivali's eyes overflowed. Ru nudged him gently. Come back to the pride. We need you too. For the first time, Kivali smiled without just gratitude. Thank you, Ru. Seasons passed. Ru grew not just in size, but in wisdom, compassion, and presence. Animals across the savannah came to know him as Ru the brave, Ru the kind, Ru the lion who helped others. Rise. He still wasn't the loudest lion in the pride, but his roar had become something far greater. A roar of unity. A roar of peace. A roar that reminded everyone true strength is in the heart, not the claws. Maziwa watched him from a hill one evening. You have become what you were meant to be, the old tortoise said. Ru lowered his head humbly. A leader? No, Maziwa said, smiling. Something rarer. Ru frowned softly. What's rarer than a leader? Maziwa gazed out at the horizon. A soul who inspires others to lead themselves. Ru felt warmth swell through him. The savannah glowed under the setting sun, painting Ru's mane in hues of gold and fire. His pride walked behind him not because he demanded it, but because they believed in him. He closed his eyes and roared once more. A roar not of dominance, but of hope. A roar that echoed across the land, reaching every creature who had ever doubted themselves. A roar that said, even the smallest among us can rise. Your worth isn't decided by others. Your heart is your strength. And your roar, your true roar, will come when the world needs it most. And maybe, just maybe, Ru's story isn't only about a lion. Maybe it's about us. About every moment we felt small. Every time someone told us we weren't enough. Every time our voice trembled. And we believed our weakness made us unworthy. But Ru taught us something powerful, that courage isn't loud. Courage is quiet. It's choosing to stand, even when your legs shake. It's choosing kindness, even when the world is not kind to you. It's rising, even when no one expects you to. If this story touched your heart, please, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs hope tonight. And before you go, leave a comment telling me the moment that moved you the most. Your words might be the light someone else is searching for. Thank you for watching. And remember, your roar is inside you. The world is just waiting to hear it.